Huginn och Muninn fljúga hverjan dag, jormungrund yfir. Óumgegg of Huginn at hann aftur ne komit, þó sjónk mér Muninn. In this passage, stanza 20 from the poem Grímnismál in the Poetic Edda, the god Odin describes his two ravens, Huginn, thought, and Muninn, memory. He says, Huginn and Muninn fly every day the whole world over. I fear that Huginn might not return, but I fear more for Muninn. Now, the names of these two ravens are related, of course, to mental functions. Hugr, or Hugi, means thought in Old Norse, and Huginn is pretty transparently readable as the thought. Muninn is pretty clearly related to the verb to the verb muna, from a root that means memory, which we also see in the word mini, meaning memory. So thought and memory are probably really good translations for these two birds' names. Odin waits for Huginn and Muninn to return to him in the evening to tell him the news, according to the expanded account of Huginn and Muninn that we get from Snorri Sturluson. And the two birds probably actually do represent these mental faculties of Odin, based on the fact that he fears for thought not returning, but fears more for his memory not returning. That certainly has always reminded me of an old man worried about losing his memories. Now, their role is most elaborated in the Ynglinga saga of Snorri Sturluson, where Snorri tells us that the ravens are quote-unquote tamed, which is interesting, suggesting that, of course, there might have been a period where Huginn and Muninn had been outside of Odin's control. I would love to have that story, perhaps, the taming of Huginn and Muninn. And that Odin has taught them human speech. And Huginn and Muninn fly around the world acting as agents of Odin, sometimes as his representatives or symbols. One of the clearest examples of that is in the tale of Håkon Jarl, told by Snorri Sturluson, also in his work Heimskringla. Håkon Jarl was a ruler of Norway who was a devout pagan, a worshipper of the old gods during a period when Christianity was on the march in the north. He had gone to Denmark and assisted the Danish king in repelling the Holy Roman Emperor Otto, who had defeated the Scandinavians and forced Håkon Jarl to accept baptism. He had placed Bibles and priests on his ships with him and sent him back across to Norway, but as soon as Håkon got back to land, well, as soon as he got out of sight of land, he pushed the priests and Bibles out, but as soon as he got back to land, he made a great sacrifice to Odin, and two ravens flying overhead symbolized that Odin had accepted the sacrifice. And so we can think of them as definitely Huginn and Muninn, either way, or just as two ravens who are symbolic of Odin's presence and approval. The Viking raider also apparently sees himself in ravens to some extent. This is also true of wolves and birds of prey, who are also often mentioned in Viking Age skaldic and also some Eddic poetry as not only the devourers of the dead, but also as good omens for the warrior, as after all, a successful warrior might have a following of carrion-eating animals. We see quite a bit of this in skaldic poetry like the Krokumál, which is one of the various works that is supposedly the final words of Ragnar Lothbrok. In stanza 16, we get a really good look at the raven as sort of mirror of the Norse warrior and as someone that he rejoices in feeding. Jogum ver með Hjörvi, hver loth ver of annan, glaður vard gera hríðar, gaukr at sverða leiki, leta orne ulgi, sós Írlandi styrði, mót vard malms og rítar, marstan konungur fasta, varði veðrafyrði, valdhafn gefit hrafni. So, I cut with the sword, a refrain in this poem, and then each man lay across another. The raven was glad at the sword play, and here we have raven expressed as akinning the cuckoo of the storm of spears, Gaukur hríðar gera. But if you know the rules of Kinnings, any bird can stand for any other bird if you clarify what kind of bird it is with some other description, and the bird of the storm of spears would be the raven because it's the bird that follows battles. That man, Marston, King of Ireland, did not let the wolf nor the eagle fast. It was a meeting of shield and blade. And in Weatherford there was given to the raven a table of slain men. Right. Pretty rock and roll in its imagery and very distinctively Viking. We see time and time again, speaking of feeding ravens, wolves, eagles. And as I said, it's probably the case that the Viking warrior kind of sees himself in these birds who follow battle, right? And in a sense, prey on the dead. Another good example of this actually comes from the Poetic Edda, the poem Helga Kvíða Hundingsbana 1, the end of stanza 5 and then stanza 6. Hraven kvaðat hravni satt óhó meiði anvanr ótu, ek veit nokkurt. Stendur í brynju búr Sigmundar, dögurs eins gamal. Nú dagar komin, hvessir augu sem hildingar, svo varga vinnar, vitt skulum teittir. A raven spoke to a raven, sitting on a high tree without food to eat. I know something. The son of Sigmundur stands in armor. He is 1 day old, and now the day has come. He sharpens his eyes like a king's. That one is a friend of wolves. We too will be cheerful. So ravens celebrate Vikings just as Vikings celebrate ravens. The name raven, hraven, is quite common in the Viking Age and into the saga period, and continues to be to a certain degree in Scandinavia and especially in Iceland today. There's also a feminine form of raven, meaning perhaps she-raven, female raven, and that is hrevna, not an uncommon name. And then there is hravenkell, a fairly common name, kell being a shortening of ketil, literally kettle, but often used in Norse poetic language to mean helmet, so raven, helmet. There are no other particularly common names compounded with raven, which is interesting given how many are compounded with wolf and bear, ulfr and bjorn. Perhaps there's something to that. Some have wondered if names with hraven actually represent Odin, someone dedicated to Odin, and the raven is being used as a stand-in instead of Odin's name, which is not used in names in the Old Norse period. This is certainly possible, although it's interesting to note that the most famous hravenkell is explicitly a priest of Freyr. Hravenkell Freyskodi in the saga, name for him, the saga of Hravenkell, priest of Frey. So, hard to say, but it is certainly possible that the preponderance of men named Hraven or Hravenkell and of women named Hrevna should be taken as the people who are at least named by parents, perhaps with an eye toward devotion in the god of the raven, Odin. I make these videos for free in beautiful places. I am supported by the very generous donations of my Patreon supporters, all of whom I would like to thank. I also hope that you will check out my translations of the Poetic Edda and the Saga of the Volsungs, already available from Hackett Publishing. The Saga of the Volsungs includes the Saga of Ragnar Lothbrok, which has another version of Ragnar Lothbrok's last words. And I'm also working right now on the Saga of Rolf Kraki and the Saga of Hervor and Haedrek, which will be coming out in one volume, and then after that on translating the Prose Edda. For now, from beautiful Colorado, I'm wishing you all the best.